Well, this morning we're joined by a senior advocate of Nigeria. He's Mr. Monday Ubani. He's a legal practitioner and also a policy analyst. He has written his own take. He says it's an interim report on the 2026 MBA Annual General Conference in Port Harcourt. And his review, I wouldn't say scathing, but hasn't been very complimentary. It's good to see you with us this morning. We wish you were with us in person, but we can still have you virtually. Thank you so much for joining us on Sunrise Daily this morning. You published this review yesterday. What has the response to your review been like from amongst your fellow lawyers?
Thank you very much. Good morning. Ayo, good morning from Lagos studio. Yes, the reaction, Maokwe, from the lawyers, and that is a very important constituency, is that they virtually agreed with what I say. You know, it's something that many people were not bold enough to speak, but I had to do this. And it is not clearly a criticism of Afam Osigwe's governance or leadership. It's just that the observation that I made is that the standard of our conference this year, fell below standard. And that is the truth. I've been to many conferences. I've been over 20-something conferences. Since I became a lawyer. I was once the chairman of a branch, Ikeja branch of the Nigerian Bar Association. I was once the vice president of the Nigerian Bar Association, the former chairman of SPIDEL, section of Public Interest and Development Law, and I'm a very active stakeholder in the legal profession. I've been to many conferences, both international and local. Now, this year's conference really fell below standard in terms of logistic and organizational, planning. We were put into a lot of discomfort. There is no place for you even to go and urinate easily and all that. That was not taken into cognizance. And the arena where the places where we had our program, wasn't conducive. The air conditioners weren't functioning properly, and the environment was very, very hot. And so you saw many lawyers more outside taking pictures and socializing rather than being inside the hall in order to listen to some of the lectures that were going on. So it wasn't really conducive. When it came to the issue of even lunch, people were carrying plates, begging for meat and all that. So it is logistical problem. I think this is the highest ever in the history of MBA. Over 24,000 lawyers registered for this conference. So you will expect all those organizational hiccups and all that. But my problem is that it may not be 100%, but there must have been some level of standard, expected in terms of planning. The number of people that are coming for this conference, what adequate arrangement did you make? Let's assume that you made some adequate arrangement and maybe it fell short. But this one is that it's like there was no proper arrangement made for the number of persons that were coming. And you took money from them and you made them now to pass through rigorous and strenuous process in a conference that's supposed to be seamless and entertaining and very exciting. We look forward every year for this kind of for annual conference. But this year, honestly, has been a bit of a strain, strenuous exercise, being under the rain. Yesterday, you see the pool of water. I was lifted like a small boy into my car. I had to be lifted by this safety young man, and I had to pay for it. Others were exploited by the Okada people trying to lift them because there was this pool of water, flood that actually made it very possible for people to have access to the venue and all that. So it has been not too good. Listen, and we are saying this not to run down any person, but for future planning, for those who are taking over, that we don't allow such things to happen. We've been to international conferences. There's going to be an IP International Bar Conference coming up in Denmark in October. If you see the level of planning, if you see the level of standards, if you go for these conferences, we should be able to look at those things, and then come back and replicate them here, and begin to improve our standard. Not every year we keep on going down, and it's not making me happy, for a profession that actually is there, that when they cough, the entire nation should actually be be a bit worried because they represent the voice of the voiceless. They represent standard. They represent, the best of the best. If you ask me, the legal profession, it still remains the best. And so when it comes to issue of planning, when it comes to issue of electoral process, when it comes to general all issues, we should be seen to be above the board. But I'm not seeing that over the years, so it's making me not to feel very happy as a legal practitioner. And I have a right to voice it out. And a lot of lawyers agree that we should improve our standard, from now onwards, and that is the truth.
And in fairness to you, I mean, you started by praising what the Enugu conference was last year. You said that clearly might have, prompted many lawyers to register for this year's event. 24,000 now, you say, at least the number of people who showed interest and who registered to come for this year's event. Well, it's very curious how you start this. I mean, where your disappointment starts from. You say your greatest, and these are your words, your greatest disappointment begins with the quality of the materials, especially the conference bag and the general organization of the conference. And I said, of all the things to start with, what we've seen so far have been controversies around the quality and suitability of some of the guests. We've also seen, of course, some of the things you've raised around welfare. I think very little has been said about the quality of the conference materials, which you highlight and you say is your greatest disappointment. Is there a reason for starting from there?
Yes. If you there have been these presidents, that have actually ran over MBA, and they gave us very quality bags, and up to now I'm still using those bags. When this other president was there, I think Mikhail's bag, the first conference that he held, quality bag, I'm still using it. Olu Akpata also, the bag was something else, and we're still using those bags. I want a situation where after a conference, I should be able to use the materials that I've got from the conference. I mean, you see it with ICANN. If you go to any ICANN conference, over the year, I mean, my brother was once the president 2 years ago and all that, and they gave me quality bag, quality bag, and I'm still using those bags, to travel. So I expect that after paying so much, as a senior advocate, I think I paid over 200 or 300,000 naira for the conference. I mean, it's a bag that is a bit qualitative. It may not be from the amount of money we're contributing. You should be able to get sponsors to do this, and that is what other professions do. Get sponsors. I mean, meet a sponsor, an investor. Look, I want you to be the one to do the bag. Take out maybe 800,000 million naira in order to do quality bag. For lawyers, and they will never forget. Even ICANN, they give umbrella. Sometimes they even give a towel and all that things they give in addition. But in our own case, if you see the bag, it looks like that of a market woman. Somebody says a funeral souvenir. It wasn't last year and this year's bag. Very unimpressive. Having seen what had been done by previous president, in terms of quality bag, for our conference. So this year and last year's, it's nothing to write home about. Last year I didn't even pick it. I didn't bother to pick it, but this year's again, I thought that would be an improvement. Starting from the back, I was not impressed.
Well, you did
and
say
then organization.
in your estimation, you have tried to, well, I say shield the NBA president, to say that this is not exactly a well, I say summary, or or should not take away from his leadership of the NBA.
Yes,
that's right. Well, we'll come to that, but let me take you up on some of the things which you say might not have been their fault. Take, for instance, this major structural problem which you identify. You say one of the major structural problem confronting the NBA annual general conferences is the absence of adequate convention centers across the country. A conference that attracts tens of thousands of lawyers cannot continue to depend on facilities that were never designed to accommodate gatherings of this magnitude. So, in your own estimation, do you think that this was really the fault of the organization, of the organizers, especially if this event is supposed to go around the country and have a national feel, a national appeal?
Yes.
Can you really hang this on them?
Yes. Yeah, very, very, very intelligent question. If it has become known to us that the number of lawyers now for our annual conferences are increasing, and then we do not have the facility for such, gathering in any particular state, then we should avoid that state. We don't. It's not compulsory that we must be, to every state. If we don't have that facility, we have discovered that Abuja can conveniently host our annual conferences without any issue. The same with Lagos, and conveniently hosted us. It's superb, and I wrote about it. Now, if we have discovered now that if we cannot go to every other state, all the states in the federation due to issue of logistics, then we don't need to go there. I mean, take for instance the one we had. The greatest platform, took only 2,000. I mean, imagine you are bringing 24,000 lawyers to a conference, and the biggest marquee, a platform you created, for the lawyers is 2,000 only. So you begin now to, do all other smaller, platform for the conference. And that's why you saw many more lawyers being outside than being inside of the hall. So I'm saying, let's now, for now, begin to concentrate in those states that can conveniently host our annual conferences. No, it's not compulsory that we must be to every state. Now, secondly, it is also a notice we are giving to governors and government that we can, begin to erect international convention centers. We've been to other countries in the world, and we see international convention that can take 30,000 at a go, 40,000, 25,000. We can do it. We have the resources. And if others are not doing it, maybe MBA will begin to look into investing in that. After all, they said they are putting into account 6 billion. That was the account that was given to us, that they have fixed 6 billion from this present government. That's why I said that it is not clearly a rundown of the present government, because there are areas where Afamo West government has actually done well, especially in terms of holding government accountable, being a voice for the voiceless and all that. And some other thing that was, that they did, that we can really commend them. And that's why I've always been there in order to say, look, go ahead, we are certainly behind you, but there are areas where he has also not fared better, which I think even the subsequent government should be able to improve upon. So one of them is this issue of conference planning, and another is issue of electoral process. We have been having issue with our electoral process. If we can sit down and criticize what goes on at national level, then we must be above board in terms of the way we organize our electoral process, in terms of how we organize our conferences. It's very important. That is my take. So whatever it is, if other states cannot host us conveniently without subjecting lawyers to strenuous, a conference, that you have come and, listen to great minds and interrogate the profession and interrogate the nation itself generally, then let's put them where we can conveniently be hosted. I mean, Abuja can conveniently do that. Lagos can, and maybe Enugu now has joined the DC, and maybe towards even going to Akwa Ibom and other states. And then let governors be put on notice and let them begin to build convention centers. I mean, I see no reason why we cannot bring out good money and build convention centers that can accommodate 25, 30,000 of persons as they go. That is the kind of thing we should begin to see and ask our governors to do, our government to do, even at the national level. That is my take. Or MBA can conveniently also begin to plan towards that. MBA can say, we're not finishing it now. We can make it a project of maybe 5 years or 6 years. Let's build a convention center where we can be holding our annual conferences. That's how we think. We must begin to, if I would say, beyond limit. The topic is beyond limit. We should go beyond traditional boundaries and begin to innovate and do things that are extraordinary. That's the way nations think. That's the way, our profession should be thinking. And I love the topic, beyond limit. We should be thinking beyond limit. Maybe this beyond limit can now push us into having a convention center, begin to build and begin to probably lay foundation for it and ask sponsors. And people can. Some people like Dangote and Illuminus of this world can help, MBA build a convention center.
Well, there'll be questions on the sustainability of such a center. I mean, if it's not hosting the MBA conference, what will it be doing all year round? But I know Ayo also has questions for you. Over now to you, Ayo.
Well, thank you, Maokwe. And that's actually a valid position to hold, particularly because we have lawyers in every state in the country. So taking it around, as the MBA has decided to do, makes some good sense. But then you've spoken to it, but I'd like you to be a little more forthright on it. The fact that it goes to one state government, one state or the other. From time to time, we've heard that state governments usually support or sponsor or whatever one of them blew up some years ago or so. Could that also have been a reason for some of the lackluster, if you may, contributions that come from other sources outside of the NBA? Could that be a reason?
What reason? Well, I didn't get the question. But...
Sometimes state governments make contributions. Was this the venue and all those other things? Were they sometimes venues contributed by the state government? Could that be a reason why some of these things don't come as up to par as expected? Or is it all on the NBA as far as you're concerned?
Yes, you are very right. Most of the conferences we have held in the past, the state government come in terms of helping in funding. I remember the one we held in Port Harcourt when Governor Wike was the governor. He was very forthcoming in terms of helping MB. I think I had Mr. Alege then was the president. I also remember the time we held in Lagos when Ambode was a governor. Ambode practically believed so much in the project, believing that so much money will come into the state, economically. He knew he is a man with a clear understanding and knew the importance of hosting an annual conference of a large gathering of lawyers, the largest in Africa. And the kind of money that we even come into that had just probably come into Port Harcourt during this conference is in the billions. I mean, all the hotels were all taken over. All those that sell volley, granite, all of them, they increased their prices and they were all making them all smiling to the banks. So it's a whole lot, that comes into any state that actually goes in. So some state government practically and intentionally, bring in money, sponsor, make accommodation affordable, and also go extra mile. The one of Enugu, the governor was all over the place. Security was tight. Everything was intact. You saw the presence of government, in the planning and organizational thing that happened in Enugu. That's the kind of thing we want every other state to be involved in. If we are coming to your state, there must be that practical demonstration that you're happy that such gathering is coming into your state and you are going to benefit from it. You must go extra mile in order to invest and make sure that extra measure you take will provide comfort for lawyers. I didn't see it in I'm sorry to say this, I didn't see it in Port Harcourt. There was a time yesterday I was in a hold up for almost 4 hours. 2 hours in a particular place because of the large number of persons and all that. So we must begin to, the conference planning and logistics, knowing fully well what will come into the economy of that particular state. Any governor that has that understanding will not in any way even be pleaded in order to go extra mile, because it's an investment you are doing. And your state will be better off after the entire conference because billions come into the economy. That is what I have discovered over time and all that. So I don't know why this year's own. I don't know whether the governor, was really this and all that. But he came there, he was there and made beautiful speeches and all that. But I didn't see much of the presence of governance, on the ground, to show that maybe we are welcome. Maybe they were ready for us last year and we were not able to go last year. And this year, the level of preparedness and what I've seen on ground wasn't all that thing.
Well, perhaps, by and large, maybe, as you have said, maybe we will expect
that. Yes.
Yeah, maybe we'll expect that, the NBA will conduct some kind of introspection, some research, feedback and all, so that, a standard is created that will not be compromised whatsoever. Something you said in your statement, Dr. Ubani, is that this is an intellectual gathering and it's supposed to produce some stuff. So over the years, the NBA conference has always attracted eyeballs and eardrums. And like you, just as you did, Mr. Falana also raised issues about one guest or the other that was invited to the program. Malco even made that a thing yesterday when we had a conversation with Mr. Falana. Now, going forward, what should people be expecting? Because when we hear NBA conference, it's just a gathering of lawyers as many people are concerned. But as far as many people are concerned, but what should Nigerians expect from an NBA conference so that when lawyers such as yourself, senior advocates are complaining, people can really empathize? In terms of intellectual contribution to society, what should Nigerians be expecting?
Yes. Yeah, it's a gathering of lawyers, judges, policymakers, business leaders, right? Government officials. And also the young ones. So the balancing act, has to be there. I agree with and that's why they have a program, part of the program over the years now, they call it Unbad. Unbad program is one that is meant for the young persons. They go and wine and dance and all that. The entertainment aspect, should be there. Leave it for the young ones and see those who are old, who are still young at heart, and all that. I don't have any issue with that. But when it comes to issue of discussion of topics and all that, then remember that you have all these people have mentioned, in that hall in order to listen to guest speakers, those who are coming to really, really interrogate ability of those people you are bringing must be intentional. It must be intentional about it. And it must be considered about those other people also that want to listen to something that they go home and say, look, we have benefited intellectually from the people we have invited. So that consciousness must be there. I'm not saying that you don't need to bring different voices. I mean, the legal profession requires different voices. We need to hear different voices from every angle, from every profession. But be conscious of the quality of your audience. And they don't bring any person that at the end, people are divided as to the importance or suitability of that particular person you have brought for that conference and all that. That is the only thing what I advise. So I don't have any problem with having mixed voices in our conference, hear from everyone, even low and the rich and the elite and all that, and the intellectuals, or even the market woman. But let it be that you are conscious of the environment where you are bringing the guests and all that, so that we don't run into problem at the end of the day. When a particular guest come and people now start quarreling, why must you have brought that particular? Why do you have to bring this person and all that? So that consciousness must be there. That's not saying that we must not bring other voices. No, we must bring voices. Let's hear voices. Let's get it from every perspective. Let's get it from every sign, every language, in order for people to really, really, use it to implement. Because beyond the issue of talking, we should go beyond the issue of talking and begin to insist on implementing these things which say we go and say every year. Are you following me, sir? Because every year we keep on talking and issuing communique and suggestions should be implemented by those who are policymakers. And that is the way we can be able to move our country forward. That is what happens in other international fora. IBA, African Bar, I'm a council member of African Bar Association, and I see presidents of countries come to our conferences and they listen to us and they say we are going home with all the things you guys have said in your conference and all that. I want it to be seen also in Nigeria. When we're having our conferences, get the policymakers to be part of the process in order to hear what we are trying to interrogate, what we are trying to say, what we are trying to make our country look like. We want our country to look like other countries. That's the point. And we must move beyond the traditional boundary by getting them to be involved and then implementing whatever we have made a suggestion in our conferences. That is the kind of conference that actually, yes.
It does appear that you're softening this particular criticism now, because I'm reading your words here, and you say lawyers are very peculiar in every respect. I mean, this is you now saying, well, you can invite market women, you can hear from all manner of professions, etc., but they should be conscious of what they're bringing them to. You say lawyers are peculiar in every respect, and the MBA Annual General Conference is a serious, professional, and intellectual gathering. It cannot and should not be converted into a circus show. No amount of argument by the protagonist of certain guests can change this fundamental reality. The MBA must preserve the intellectual dignity and professional character of its annual gathering. Yes. So this, for me, was a very, very fundamental part of your criticism of this year's conference. Which clearly has not exactly, gone down well. A lot of lawyers have agreed with you. It's unclear. I mean, there's been no vote done now. But those who have disagreed very vocally. And those who are the protagonists for the show, for the appearance of these guests, have also made a very strong case. Yesterday, when we were speaking with Mr. Falano, I cited Professor Chidi Odinkalu, who says that, look, this is a form of feedback, and that the NBA should not be afraid of feedback. That's how he sees it. And I think we saw a post from the NBA president who said something to the effect that, I mean, he can deny or verify that because you know how social media works. But he said that the fact that people do not like certain people doesn't mean that they cannot hear from them, or that they shouldn't listen to them. So that's some sort of pushback. Do you think that this has the ability to divide the NBA? Because some people will say that so far so good. It does appear that this pushback or this back and forth we've seen on the appearance of certain guests might run deeper than what we're seeing on the surface. Is this something you agree with?
The point is that whoever you are bringing at every point in time, you must do a fact check. You must look at the antecedent. You must look at the character. You assess the person, whether engagement in social media, physical, and all that, the kind of character you are bringing. There was a particular case they brought in a conference in a year that climbed a pole. I don't know, even half naked and all that. That cannot represent the gathering of lawyers. No matter how you want to justify that, I would not like to invite any person that probably wear, earring on his nose and come to our program and then come to address lawyers, because we are looking at also our guests as role models. There are lawyers who are coming up, we want them to look at certain persons, we bring in our program and say, this is a role model. I want to be like this person.
Just to say that women wear earrings.
No, and I would like, you can wear your earring outside, but when you are coming for ABA program, I will advise, if you cannot, keep to our dress mode and all that, then I wouldn't like to bring you in, because people look at you there as our role model. We have brought you there to exhibit you, to the entire profession and to the world. I know that there are people, people on social media, they can attack, they love attack, even when you express your opinion, very honestly. I'm saying, if I'm bringing somebody to MBA program, it's a different thing. I'm not doing a social thing, to come and speak on a platform I'm giving you as an MBA guest speaker. Then you're addressing in very, very important for me. The language also you would deploy also very important to me. The things you will say very important. You must be measured and you must be very factual. These are things I want to go out of the lecture hall feeling that I have benefited, from this person. Yes. I don't want to go, with a
I take that from you, Mr. Ubani, but I'm asking, do you think that it's a reflection of deeper divisions running within the NBA? This criticism.
The point is that people have a right to hear their view, right? If you bring, it's not deeper. Look at the people you are bringing. Make sure that it will not create division. It is not a measure of deeper, division. I'm saying that people will take individual position on a matter at any point in time. I mean, last year, it was issue of junior lawyers taking the center stage. You can't do that in the legal profession where you have old lawyers and then the young lawyers. Yes, you have to give them an opportunity. But let it not be that you now put them ahead of senior lawyers. That is actually what happened last year in Enugu. That was only the minors, of that particular conference. This year is issue of personalities that have been done. So you be careful. Those who are in the planning committee, be a bit more conscious. Look at your audience, those that you are bringing these guests for and all that. How would they react? What will be their feeling? What has been the antecedent of this person and all that? So do all your fact check, do all your background check before bringing any guests. Don't bring any guests that will create a lot of controversy. I don't have any problem with any person. I don't have any problem with any person. I'm saying it here. Let's have different voices, but also do a fact check. Don't bring a particular guest that can actually divide the constituency. That is my take. That is not to say that we are against any person coming for MBA, whether lawyer or non-lawyer. But let it be that the person will contribute something that, when I'm leaving the conference, I say I've benefited, immensely from this particular guest speaker.
Mr. Ubani, we have to thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us on Sunrise Early with the review of the MBA Annual General Conference, which will be rounding off today in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. Thank you once more. Mr. Monday Ubani is a senior advocate of Nigeria. Of course, you have to be a legal practitioner for you to be a senior advocate. He's also a policy analyst. Thank you once more for sharing your thoughts with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good morning.